Hey guys, welcome to November's reading wrap-up. Wow, I do not really know what happened this month. I have a lot of books to talk about. One of my goals that I had put in place for 2021, I'm going to go over my goals sometime during Vlogmas here, was to read less books, and that just hasn't been happening this year. So I think one of the things that I did well this month is I quit books left and right. Normally I don't quit books as easily as I was this month, but I kind of knew some of them off the bat may not be for me, and I didn't feel like pushing myself too much. And because I quit a bunch of books, I think I was able to read a bunch more books that I liked. So it worked well for this month. Not sure if that's going to happen all the time, but let's kind of get into this. So I organized things nicely here again. I did just want to briefly mention, these are the books that I currently have on the go, not even all of them. One problem I have with BookTube is I feel like I need to have all my books wrapped up at the end of 1 month, but I'm trying to learn that it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to really say anything about these. I'm just going to tell you what I'm currently reading. Anne's House of Dreams, Daphne du Maurier's The Doll short stories, Mary Barton. Honestly, this one I might just quit and leave for a bit and pick up some other classics, because I haven't read any more than that first chapter and it was boring. I'm listening to The Captive Kingdom, and I started Oathbringer already. This one's on my December TBR, but I got a tiny little bit of a head start, and so, I mean, that's the part I've actually read. So that's a peek into most of the books I'm currently reading. I'm actually reading a little bit more than that. I realized I did forget to mention in my October reading wrap-up that I read The Pursuit of God. I wanted to quickly throw this one in here because I was reading it along with Krista and a bunch of people. She was doing a couple live videos and we were chatting about it. So yes, I read The Pursuit of God back in October. I think I gave this one 5 stars if I remember correctly. Okay, now moving on to November. I have a stack of DNFs. I have 1 2-star, 3 3-stars, 2 3.5 stars, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 4 stars, and 4 5 stars. So overall, a really good month. Being able to quit a bunch of books helped me get to those better books. So let's talk about the ones I DNF'd. Wow. Okay, I have a little sticky note because if I don't have the physical book and I don't write it down, I don't remember. So I, surprisingly to me, DNF'd Secrets in the Mist by Morgan L. Bussey. I had high hopes for this book. I had actually pre-ordered it and it just was never shipping, so I canceled it, and then I started listening to it on audio and was actually thankful that it didn't come, because I got 22% into the audiobook and just felt very bleh. So that's disappointing. I don't think I'm going to continue that series, so that's unfortunate. And then I also DNF'd Poisoned by Jennifer Donnelly. This is a Snow White retelling? Yeah, retelling. And I might go back to that one. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't really catching my interest, and there's just so many other books. So I quit that one, and let's go into the physical books here that I quit. I attempted Historathon 2.5 this month for the first time, I think. And I quit both of the books. I quit The Secret Life of Bees, even though I know so many of you really like this book. But I just couldn't get into it and didn't feel like pushing myself. And I also quit One More River to Cross by Jane Kirkpatrick. I had really high hopes for this one, and I think lots of people would actually love it. But for me, it was just following too many characters and I just wasn't very invested. So yeah, that was my attempt and complete fail at Historathon. Oh man, then I quit so many other books I thought I would like. So I tried Elizabeth Peters, her first book, Crocodile on the Sandbank. That's the first Amelia Peabody mystery, and I got a decent way through. I don't remember how far, and I just was not enjoying it. And I know so many people thought I would really like this series, so is there like a better book I should try in this series? Or maybe if this is kind of like the average, maybe it's just not for me. This one was disappointing. I DNF'd Robert McFarlane's Landmarks. I thought this was going to be more like him describing areas of the UK, and instead it was more like him talking to people about it. And I don't know, it didn't have the vibes that I was hoping for in this book. Then Anne from Elizabeth Ann Reads and I tried a buddy read, and we both DNF'd An Unkindness of Magicians. This was supposed to be a magical revenge thriller, but it was just way too much in the YA category. If someone takes this idea and rewrites it, I think it could be done so much better, but there was just, yeah, I didn't really like it. And then, okay, now we will move on to 2-star. I had one 2-star book. I got this physical book out because I had got it out, been approved for it on NetGalley a long time ago, and hadn't read it. And that is The Weight of Memory by Sean Smucker. This is my first Sean Smucker book. I know I have one of his on my TBR shelf, Light from the Distant Stars, and I hope that this does not show what his normal writing is, because I give this 2 stars. I really did not like it. We follow a man named Paul who has a tumor, and he is in charge of his granddaughter who's 10 or 11 or something, and he decides to take her back to the town where he grew up. And his granddaughter can see this lady, and you find out throughout the book that she ends up representing death. And this is supposed to be a like Christian book, but there's like no hope in it whatsoever. The focus on death kind of just being the end seems to be like a major theme, and I was not enjoying this at all. I really didn't like it. Didn't like how it was written, didn't like the themes. Yeah, good thing that was a library book. Okay, moving on to 3 stars. So 3 stars, it's a good book, but probably not one I would read again. So the first one here is The Gender Game. A subscriber, Emily, actually sent this one to me, and this definitely had like Hunger Game feels, that whole dystopian feel. It's in a world where kind of like one side of the river is ruled by men and one side is ruled by ladies. Not that one gender can't live in the other area, but they pretty much don't have any authority or, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have like any say. There's a word and it's just gone. In that side of the river, and our main character, she has to kind of go undercover to the men's side of the river. And yeah, I don't know, it was interesting. You didn't know who to trust. This is a series. I enjoyed the book, but I don't think I would continue the series. Then a thriller I actually got out from the library that sounded so intriguing to me is 56 Days. This one is a couple meet 56 days before Ireland is shut down for COVID. So they met 56 days ago, 35 days ago, they move in together, and then today detectives arrive to discover a decomposing body inside, and the concept was very interesting to me. There were a number of twists along the way, but I just found myself like not liking the book, and I really didn't like the ending. And not that the ending was really that much of a surprise, I was disappointed by it, but it kept me reading. I wanted to know what was going to happen. It just wasn't my favorite. And my last 3-star book is True Silver. This is the first book in the Sword Speaker saga. So this is a story about a guy who wants to win a sword, what's it called? Some kind of sword fighting contest. There we go, that's the right word. And his father had been deemed a coward, and he's trying to like make up for it, really. I think the book was good. It wasn't really my kind of book. It was a little bit more maybe on some of the fighting and the I'm not sure. It wasn't really my kind of book, but I did recommend it to a friend to buy for her kids for Christmas because I think they would like it. I feel like this was maybe, boys would maybe be more interested in it than I was. Now, 3.5 stars. I have 2, and they are part of the same series. So I have The Greystone Secrets #2, The Deceivers, and The Messengers. So this is a middle grade sci-fi series with alternate dimensions. Yeah, so I enjoyed the series. It was a lot of fun, kind of just average, slightly above average, but it has made me want to read more of Margaret Peterson Haddix's books, so that's always fun. On to the 4 stars. So I had 2 that were, one that was an ebook, one that was a audiobook. So I listened to Dust by Kara Swanson on audio. I have gotten this book out from the library before and kind of assumed, based on what I'd heard from other people, that it would not be a book for me because most people were disappointed in it. And you guys, I really enjoyed it. So it is a Peter Pan retelling of sorts. Our main character, she has this, what she always thought was like a skin condition, but it's actually fairy dust. She's part fairy. And she's looking for her twin brother who went missing. She thinks Peter Pan kidnapped him. So she goes to London and finds Peter Pan, and the book ensues. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun with it. Book 2 is called Shadows, I think, and I'm gonna definitely try that one. Then I read Justified Means by Shatona Havig. I read her Argosy Junction back in the summer, I think, and I got the ebook out for Justified Means, and I had a lot of fun with this one as well. It starts out with a girl being kidnapped, but she's kidnapped for her own protection, so the people say, and I really enjoyed like thinking about the psychology behind, let's say I was kidnapped, you were kidnapped, and the person kidnapping you is fairly kind, says it's for your protection, but like won't let you do anything and chains you up, and like, do you trust the person? Do you fight? Do you wait quietly and see what happens and then fight? Like, how would you go about it? That, I love thinking about the psychology behind these kinds of things, and that's what I was thinking about a lot during this book. This is my second of her books that I have read, and I have been very impressed by the Christian themes that she weaves throughout, the conversations that the Christian characters have, or the one Christian character has with non-Christians. I feel like I have seen it done so poorly in books before, and sometimes it's like so cringy or it's non-existent or whatever, and I feel like it's so natural in her books, and I've really appreciated that. So I've read 2 books, and she thinks that she's published over 100, so I've got quite a few more books of hers to read. Okay, and then on to the physical books. Right at the beginning of the month, I went to a cabin and read part of The Haunting of Hill House. So this is a Shirley Jackson, I think maybe this is her most well-known book, where there is a haunted house and a PhD guy, I don't know what exactly he is, he wants to run an experiment, so he invites some people out there and sees how the house interacts and stuff. I mean, I don't believe in haunted houses, but I don't know, it was fun to read about. It was interesting to see, once again, like some of that psychology behind some of the stuff that happens, how people react when creepy things happen. Yeah, I don't know, The Lottery is still my favorite Shirley Jackson though, and I think forever will be. Then one day, what I did was, I was wanting to read, but I didn't really want to read any of the books I had lined up, so I went and like picked up a few books that intrigued me, and then kind of went off that stack. I picked up the first one and was so impressed, I got sucked right in. And now I think the toddler's coming. Hey buddy! Do you need more snacks? Okay, he has more snacks, and we can keep going. The book is The Space Between Words. I have never heard anyone ever talk about this book. Maybe it was before my booktube days. It was published in 2017. I just came across this on Book Outlet one time when I was searching for, I don't even know what. I don't know what would have intrigued me, honestly. We follow a woman who is living in France for a bit, kind of visiting France, I guess, with some friends. And she goes out to a concert and there is a terrorist attack. And there are things that happen afterwards. Some of her like trauma that comes through, I guess, that just like was gut-wrenching to me. But then also the writing of the French countryside. I don't really want to go to France, honestly, but now I do. Like reading this, I did. It was so interesting, and she does some like antiquing throughout France, and it just sounds so interesting. And then she comes across like a historical kind of mystery thing that she wants to solve, and yeah, I really enjoyed this, so I'm giving this one 4 stars. But I can see a lot of people who are more into like historical fiction, even though it wasn't really all historical, really loving this one. And then, right, okay, I read the first book in, this is the first one, right? Yes, the Quantico Files, is that what it's called? Quantico Files, yes. Book 1, Nightfall by Nancy Mel. This one is, I think I mentioned it in my cult books. Yes, I think that video is first. So it has a cult, which just intrigues me right off the bat. But our main character, her aunt, had been a part of a cult in her childhood, and Alex wasn't part of the cult, but they often met in her home. And so it was interesting to see kind of like some of the trauma from that. But also she works for the FBI and is kind of hunting down some of the people in the cult. And then there's this really creepy poem that the book starts out with that has to do with a serial killer that eventually happens. For any little boy or girl who hears the train man speak, who feels his rancid breath caress their pretty cheek, must close their eyes, pretend to sleep, and very softly pray, or else the evil train man may carry them away. So that's creepy. And yeah, so serial killer, cults, creepy vibes, but very well written. I've been really enjoying her writing. And then I have books 3 and 4 in the Gwen Marcy series. So I'm giving these both 4 stars. Honestly, if I liked the Gwen Marcy character better, they would probably be 5-star books. So yes, this is Carrie Stewart Parks's series where the main character is a forensic artist. I kind of think all her books have forensic artist vibes, I think, because she was one. And I feel like her details, you can tell that she was one. They're so different than some of the things you normally read, in a way that you can just tell that she has more information than a lot of authors do. So in the first one, she is trying to hunt down a serial rapist and then kind of stumbles across a snake serpent handling church in the process. And yeah, this is one where I felt like everyone was sketchy, and I didn't, when they reveal kind of like the main sketchy person, I was shocked. They gave a lineup, and it's just like my Agatha Christie failures. Like, they give the lineup and I still just am wrong. So really enjoyed this one. I think this is probably my favorite of the series. This probably could have been a 4.5. Honestly. And then the last one is Portrait of Vengeance, and in this one we get a glimpse into Gwen's childhood. So it talks about it in the first couple books. I don't think it mentioned it all in book 3, but she was kind of like a foster child growing up, not officially, but she was taken in by a family, and she doesn't speak of her childhood. And but you know, like, there's something sketchy going on, and in this one it all kind of comes to a head. And yeah, I think this was a really good wrap up of the series. It didn't feel like it's just kind of open-ended. It wrapped up really nicely. So there's that series. Now onto the 5 stars. An ebook that I read was Deadfall, so it's after Nightfall, book number 2. Deadfall, well, book 1 had cult vibes, book 2 didn't, and I really enjoyed it because in this one I felt like I saw the ending coming a bit, and in Deadfall I did not at all. So there is a serial killer who is making people kill themselves. Right off the bat, he phones someone in their hotel room and he pretty much threatens someone they love, and if they don't kill themselves, he will kill them. And once again, there's like that suspect list, and this time I had no idea, whereas this one I knew, but I didn't. And I think a book is so much better if I don't know what's going on, so I appreciate that. Speaking of not knowing what's going on, the reason this one is a 5-star book is because I had no idea what was going on. If you watched my attempt at solving this mystery, you'll know I had no idea what was going on. So yes, I made an entire video attempting to solve this mystery, sharing my thoughts as I went. Parallel at End House, we have a woman who has these attempts on her life, and her house just happens to be close to where Poirot is vacationing, so he helps try to solve this mystery. I had a lot of fun filming myself trying to solve it. That is the second time I've done that. The first time I did it with my patrons over on Patreon last winter, and I'm thinking about doing more. I just haven't decided. I'm thinking of bringing Patreon back next year, maybe January, February, and I was thinking of making that like a regular thing over there, or I might do another video here on this channel. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely going to attempt to solve another one on video. I'm just not sure where it's going to be. Okay, 3 more left. Let's do this one first. This is Help, I'm Drowning by Sally Clarkson. Weathering the storms of life with grace and hope. I love Sally Clarkson's writing, and this book is gorgeous. I think I need to buy this one. So she wrote this one during COVID when her and her husband, I feel bad for them. They had just moved to Oxford from the US, and COVID hit, and they were like shut in their house. Even it was pretty bad, I think, in the UK, where you couldn't even really leave your house for a while. So they were living in this beautiful area, and they were gonna like have gatherings with people and do these things and speaking things, and they were just stuck inside their house, which is unfortunate. And this book is kind of written towards moms weathering all sorts of storms in your life. And I was reading this at a point this last month where our youngest foster daughter was going back and forth, and things were just like all over the place, and it was just the perfect time to be reading this. I always feel so encouraged when I read her books. And then it's got to come as no surprise that I gave another Anne book 5 stars. This is Anne of Windy Poplars. So she, for 3 years, is working at a school, and she lives in a house called Windy Poplars, although it's also published under, what is it called? Windy Willows. I don't know why there's 2 different names. But so this book is mostly in letters. They're mostly her letters to Gilbert, talking about her adventures as a teacher there. And it's just more of what Anne has been. It's more of little town stories, quirky little people, heartwarming incidents. Apparently after you finish your snack, you need a cloth to wipe your face. So anyway, continuing on. Yeah, so Anne, I just love it. Just loving this series. And then my final book is All Along You Were Blooming. Next time I do a book haul, this one will be in there. But this is a beautiful collection of poetry that Gloria sent me, and I so appreciate. This is Thoughts for Boundless Living. And so Morgan Harper Nichols is a Christian poet, but also like artist. Every page is just beautifully done. I mean, some of them are pretty like plain basic, but just some of the details, the colors, I really like it. So it is a Christian collection of poetry. I feel like some of the poems, even if you look on her Instagram, she shares a lot of them on Instagram, they can come across as very self-helpy. If you read individual poems, if you read the entire collection, you can see that she talks about grace and light and like who she's giving glory to. And in some ways the kind of like the self-helpiness bothers me. In other ways, I think it would be a very good introduction for some people who are non-Christians, who kind of believe in a lot of that like manifestation stuff. Not that she talks about manifestation, but I feel like some of her poems could really appeal to those people and then lead her to Christ. So I think this is a beautifully done, it's a piece of art is what this is. And this has inspired me so much. I wrote a decent amount of poetry in the month of November, and I don't know what a person does with poetry. It's not like you're gonna actually put it into a book or anything for the normal average person, but it definitely inspired me and I appreciate that. Okay, so that is all for what I read and quit and am currently reading lately. Let me know what your favorite book that you read in November was. Thanks again for watching, guys.